In this video, we're going to deal with the lighting and being able to see that in our scene. So we'll start by talking about rendering. So rendering is the way the computer processes light in the scene. In this default setting that we have gray objects. We have some generic lighting so you can see front, top, bottom, and see that there are shadows. In this setting, we can't add colors to anything. We cannot control the lights. So if you look here on the top right of the 3D viewport, you have 4 little circles. By default, we're on the second one, which is called solid view or solid shading. The first one, if you click on that, is wireframe. So there's no lighting, but you see the structure of your objects, the lines and the edges and the faces that create those. If you click on the third circle, give it a second, a little bit of a lag here. Slowly but surely. It might be where I'm trying to record the video and work in Blender at the same time, might be causing some issues. There we go. So in this setting, we will be able to see any colors we have on objects, which we haven't done that yet. But the lighting itself is still a generic setup that we have no control over. Now, real quick, before we do the next one, let's go ahead and go to File and Save. And if you have your Z drive, save it there. But I know for some of you that doesn't show up, so you'll go to Documents, usually. Okay, there we go. You'll go to Documents and save there if for some reason you don't have access to your Z drive. But if you have a Z drive, click on it. You can create a folder for digital art and name this text animation, and then save your file. Okay, once you have saved, we're going to switch to this last tab, and we save because on some of the computers they tend to crash. So if that happens, you have your file backed up. So we're going to click on this last tab, and this is the render viewport setting. So this shows you any colors or materials that you have. It also shows you the effect that any lights in the scene are having. So in our default scene, the light is slightly behind and above our word. So the front is dark, the back has more lighting. We also have light coming from the world around our text. So the world is gray, so you don't have anywhere that's perfectly black because you have a little bit of light coming from this neutral gray color. The first thing we want to do is make our world completely black so we have so we can control all lighting through lights that we add. To do that, we're going to come over to the Properties panel. We're going to go to this red world icon. So this will be the setting for our world. When you click on that, we're going to look at color. You have a yellow dot, and then you have this gray rectangle. So if you click on the gray rectangle, this opens a setting so you can add color. But for us, we want to take this gray, black, white, and gray slider all the way down to the bottom. Now we can see that the world itself is not providing light, so anywhere our lamp is not hitting, you get completely black areas because no light is able to reach those surfaces. Now we want to select our light, and if you can't see it, to select it in the 3D viewport where the light is black and the world is black. For example, when I have something else selected, I can't see it at all. You can come to the outliner and click on it here on the right, and then it will be selected and show up in the 3D viewport. To make placing this a little easier, we're going to open something called the property shelf. So if you look to the right at this little widget that has the Z, X, and Y axis, to the right of that, there's a really small arrow. If you click that arrow, you will open the property shelf. This typically contains location, rotation, scale settings, and sometimes some other things we'll talk about, but the majority of what we will be doing is dealing with location, rotation, scale. So with this selected, we have this property shelf open. We're going to change X to -5. We're going to change Y to -5 and change Z to 5. and that will place our light in front of, above, and to the left of our word. For this animation, we're going to use 3-point lighting. It's a very common photographer technique to make a single subject look really nice. So we have one light, and now we need two more. With this light selected still, we're going to right click and select duplicate objects. When you click that, your new light will be created. By default, it's selected. You can see that I'm moving that around. So I'm just going to move it to the side, left click somewhere to place that. Now we need to put this in a very specific location. So we're going to change X to 5, Y to -5, and Z to -5. So 5, -5, -5. So one light, and I'll select both of these so you can see it, is to the top left. One light is to the bottom right, and they're both the same distance out in front of our word. We need one more light, so I'm just going to select either one. You'll notice that our first light is named light. Our second light is light.001. It does not matter which one you select next. So once it's selected, right click, duplicate object, take your new light, click and place it somewhere on the screen. This last one will be behind our scene. So we're going to take it, we'll say X will be 10. It will keep it to the right of our word. Y, we're going to do we're going to do +20. Z, we're going to make 0. So the numbers again, X is 10, Y is 20, Z is 0. So that puts our third light behind our word. Last, we need to set how strong the lights are. So let's first go to our original light, which is named light here in the outliner. You can see that's selected here in the 3D viewport. We're going to the properties panel on the right. We're looking for the green light bulb icon. Click on that, and we have the color of the light, which we'll leave it white, and then you have the power. So let's change the power of this to, excuse me, we'll do 5,000 for that. Actually, no, let's change that to 3,000. I think that will be a better number. And we can change that later if we see once we add a color, if that's not working well. So our first light is set to 3,000. We're going to select our second light, which should be the one that is in the bottom right in front of our word. And this is called the fill light. So the first one is a key light in a 3-point lighting setup. The second one is called a fill light. And the purpose of the fill light is to fill in some of these shadows with some light so it's not quite as harsh. And for this, we'll do half the strength of our key light. Our key light was 3,000. So our second light, the fill light, should be 1,500. And that will ease some of the intensity of, or some of the contrast in some of these shadows. Last, we're going to get our third light, which is called the backlight. And this is typically a really strong light to add kind of a glow effect around your subject. So let's start with, we'll do 10,000. So I think 10,000 should be a good number. When we turn on a different effect later, we can adjust that to increase kind of a glow, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So at this point, you should have 3 lights set around our word to help provide better lighting. In our next video, we're going to talk about the color of an object, so like the texture and the material, and that will be our next step. Go ahead and save, and then we will continue in the next part.